I'm in my art space at home, getting all my materials ready to bind a book, to bind A Lens for the Lighthouse. And so what I'm going to start with is the manuscript, the pages of the book, the interior, the guts of the book. And I'm going to put my glasses on, obviously. That would help. And then I'm going to mark out, I'm going to measure so that I can begin to take, because ultimately I'm going to take a needle and a thread. I'm going to stitch the spine of the book together. So the first thing you have to know is where you're going to put your needle through. So I'm going to measure, and I'm going to start at the center of the book, and I'm going to put a pencil mark inches apart so that I have about 10 marks here. And then I open up the book, and I'm going to take my awl, and I'm actually going to puncture the manuscript like this, right on the pencil marks. And that's where my needle's going to go through with my stitch when we bind the book together. And when I've got all my puncture marks, then I'm going to fold it. And now the really tricky part is to thread the needle. Oh, wow, I was lucky. I got it on a third try this time. So now I'm going to make 2 knots, and then we're ready to stitch. Okay, so we've got our needle threaded, we've got our manuscript, the guts of the book, and we've used our awl to make the holes in the spine. I'm going to make my first puncture. Actually, I'm going to pass my needle through from the outside to the inside. I can feel that knot. And now I'm going through the next one right here. It's just like you're sewing. It's just like you're mending a pair of pants or sewing a shirt. Just keep coming through like this. And then you go through this next puncture. Pull it through. So I think you get the idea. And I'm going to come through one more time right here. And it's really it's very basic sewing. And I'm just going to go through one more time right here. And you pull it a little taut, and you get the idea. You can see the stitches right here going all the way through the spine, and you get to the end, and you come all the way through again, until eventually you have your book completely stitched. Let's see, let me get a brighter page where you can see. Can you see the stitches right here in the center of the book all the way through? And it just feels to me like since I wrote the book, and took this baby all the way through the process, that just made sense to me to learn how to bind books and make them for myself. And it feels really good. I prefer to be keeping it in-house than sending it out to a big company to get bound. So now that we're done stitching the guts of the book, we're going to move onto the floor so that I can show you how I cut the book board for the cover of the book. So now the next step is to make your book board. And again, folks, I'm not being real precise here, but I just wanted to give you an idea of the basics of what the steps are to bind your own book. So what I need to do, I'm going to be making with this book board, which is actually just regular cardboard, I'm going to be making the front cover and the back cover of the book. So I've measured out the length of this board, and it's about 16.5 inches. So to cut them in half, I'm going to put a pencil mark at 8 1/4, and I'm going to draw my nice line at 8 1/4, and then I'm going to use a really heavy-duty X-Acto blade, and I always use a book to help me get the leverage that I need. And then I just cut through, make a nice clean cut all the way through the board. Sometimes you need to do it a couple times. And there we have the front cover of the book and the back cover of the book. Now we're going to go back up to the table, and I'm going to show you how we cover the inside and the outside with some nice heavy stock paper. So we've just cut our book board, our front and back cover, and while I was down there I cut the spine of the book as well. That's really, really important that you get the right dimensions for your spine. We've got our guts, also called text block, and now you're going to want to pick a really nice color for a thick stock paper for the inside cover and for the back cover of your book. And that pretty color paper is going to get glued on to your guts or your text block on the front and on the back. And then the last step is to get our cover. Here's the cover of the book, which is a separate piece of paper. We're going to lay it out with our book board in the right configuration. So we've got the front of our book, the back of our book, and we've got the spine of the book. So you're going to see that you've got, you're going to be cutting this and you're going to be gluing all around the perimeter and on the spine to fold over the cover of the book onto the front and the back cover. Once you've got that, your book is going to have the cover, it's going to have the front cover, it's going to have the back cover. It's going to have a really nice professional looking inside with a color that, you know, looks really nice with the palette of the story that you've created, front and back. And look, here we've got our beautifully stitched Lens for the Lighthouse, our beautifully stitched story. When I finished my first book, when I bound my first book, I felt so accomplished. I went running into my husband and I said, look what I did, look what I did. And he goes, wow, that looks really professional, looks really good. And like I said, you know, it just feels like I've completed the process. Like I wrote the story, I worked with the illustrator. It just seemed like a logical next step to learn how to bind and stitch and glue my own book from start to finish. And to me, there's no comparison in having a book that somebody has handmade compared to buying it from a really gigantic company that just feels to me really impersonal. This is handmade, and I hope that it has that energy in it, that spirit in it. And I hope you'll try it.